I built this fully automated source generator app using just Lovable and N8N. All you have to do is give it an idea about a video you want to create, and it will automatically generate an engaging YouTube short with custom-made sounds using the latest AI models. It then returns it back in our Lovable interface, where we can choose the exact date and time we want to schedule it for posting in our social media. And after that, the app takes care of the rest. It schedules the shorts and publishes them at the exact time we selected. The best part is that videos like this one get millions of views on platforms like TikTok, Instagram and YouTube. And since these platforms pay this much for 1000 views, you can end up making thousands of dollars from one single video. So I think you do see how powerful an app like this can be. So let's start building it. Alright, so the first thing we have to do is go over to lovable.dev, which we will use to build the front end of our app, where the user can easily interact with it, and then we will build all the backend functions over in N8N. Now to build the front end, I wrote this prompt message in which I basically tell Lovable to create an app with one box in which I will be able to insert an idea I have about a video, and then this app will send an idea over to N8N where we will actually create the video from. And I specifically told it to don't do any of the backend functions and to just focus on building a nice looking front end UI. And what I will do now, guys, is I will come over to Google and search for nice looking UI, find one that I like, let's say for example this one, and I will simply come over here and download it, and then come back over to Lovable, upload it and click on enter. And guys, it is always good to give a visual example, simply because Lovable has something to take inspiration from, which in turn makes it more likely to give you a good end result. But while Lovable is building our app, let's go over and build the backend functions of it in N8N. So I will simply come over to N8N, and the first thing we have to do is to obviously add in our trigger. So I will simply come and click on add first step, and I will search for a webhook, guys. And the reason we're using a webhook is because the webhook actually allows us to connect the front-end interface we're building right now in Lovable to the backend automation we're going to build in N8N. So to connect these two, all we have to do is to come over here in the HTTP method and change it from get to post, since that is the request we're going to be sending over to Lovable. And then all we have to do is to simply come over here and click on this URL to copy it in our clipboard. And then if we come back over to Lovable, we can see it finished creating the front end of our app, and it does look very good, guys. And you see why giving in an example is actually super important, because it did create this very nice looking UI, which it probably wouldn't be able to do if we didn't give it the image at the start. Now we can obviously visually improve this if we want, but the first thing we have to do is to come over here in the Lovable chat and make sure we tell it, this is the webhook URL, send over anything I input in the chat to this link. And what I will do now, guys, is I will simply paste in the link I just copied and simply click on enter. What Lovable will do is embed this webhook URL inside our website. So every time we type our ID over here and we click on send, it actually sends it back over to our N8N interface, so we can actually create the YouTube short. And as you can see, it just finished embedding the webhook. So let's actually test it. So I will simply come over here and type 3 animal warriors, for example. Let's say we want to make a video about that. But before I come over here and click on send, what I first have to do is to come back over to N8N and make sure I click on listen for test event inside the webhook. This is why the webhook actually expects to receive data from our front-end interface in Lovable, because if I don't click that, it is not actually going to be able to receive the data. So now if I come back over to Lovable and simply click on send, you can see idea was sent successfully. And if I come back over in my N8N interface, you can see that we do have an output over here, which means that we have successfully managed to connect our front-end interface in Lovable with our backend in N8N. And if I scroll all the way down here, you can also see the exact thing that I typed, which is 3 animal warriors. So now what I will do is I will simply come over here and pin this data to make it semi-permanent, so I don't constantly have to rerun this as we are building the automation. And now I'll simply come and click off of here, and it's time we are in the next node. So the next node we're going to add is actually going to be an AI agent. And the reason I'm adding an AI agent, guys, is because I will basically tell this AI agent to take in the idea that I gave it and create me a bunch of prompts for the image that we're going to generate and then for the video we're going to generate. Because just so you understand how it will work, we will first generate an image and then we will take this image and basically animate it and turn it into a video. And the reason we're doing that, guys, and we're not just simply turning the text into a video, is because when we first generate an image, the video is going to turn out significantly better rather than if we just immediately generate the video, because the text to video generators are not very good at generating the initial image and then animating it. they're simply very good at animating the image. So if we just simply try to turn text into a video, sure we can do that, but we're not going to get a very good result. So that's why we're doing it in 2 steps to get the best possible result. So now how we will configure this AI agent is we'll first of all have to come over here and change this from connect to chat trigger node to define below, since we're not using a chat trigger node. And then what we'll need to do is basically give it the user message. So for the user message, I will simply give it my idea for the video. So I will type my idea, I will make sure I turn this into an expression, and then I will simply scroll all the way down here in my webhook to where I have my idea and simply take this and drag and drop this over here. So now that we configure the user message, we also need to give it instructions of how it should act. So to do that, I will simply come and click on add option and I will add in a system message. Now what a system message does is we basically tell the AI agent exactly how it needs to act. So think of this like as the backend of the AI agent. The user message is the front end, the instruction you would give it, for example, to ChatGPT, and then this is the backend where we basically tell it how it's going to act. So I will simply come over here, I will actually open this up so you can take a look at it, and I will say, you're an AI content generator for short form videos. Your task is to generate 3 different scenes. You can obviously change it if you want your video to have even more scenes. I just said 3 for the example of this video. Each scene must feature a different warrior animal. That's what we want our videos to be. If you actually want to change this and make it more general so you can create other types of shorts as well, you can simply specify it over here. Since I'm specifically making this for these types of videos because I have seen them perform very well, get millions of views, that's why I specified this, so it is more likely to give us a good prompt for this. Then I told it some things that each animal must have. Then I said that each scene must include an image prompt, so basically the prompt the AI is going to generate that we will take and input inside the text to image generator to generate the image, and then a video prompt, which is the prompt that we're going to take and input inside the image to text generator to generate us the video. And that's basically it. You can pause and read the whole thing if you want. Plus, if you want to simply download this full automation so you don't have to build it at all, you can click the link underneath this video and join my school community, where I have the template for this and many more automations and a bunch of other things and courses, so make sure you go and check it out. Again, link is in the description below. But now I will simply come and click off of here. What we need to do is to come over here and add in a chat model. Now you can obviously add in each chat model you want. Since I tend to use OpenAI a lot, I will simply select that one and I will leave it on GPT-4o mini. And now what we also need to do is to again come open this up, make sure we click on require specific output format, which what this does, guys, is it opens up this brand new option over here, which is the output parser. And why we need to add in an output parser, guys, is so the output the AI agent gives us is exactly structured as we want it to be. So I will simply come over here and select structure output parser. And now you will see some JSON code over here, and I know you might get intimidated and you're like, oh, I don't know how to write this code, which means that I can actually use this. That is actually super simple, guys. All you have to do to get good code for your output parsers is simply come over here, open up your AI agent, take your system prompt, simply copy it, open the AI assistant, or you can even go over to ChatGPT, simply paste it in and simply say, write me JSON for an output parser for this, and simply click on enter. And the AI will write you all the JSON code without you having to basically do anything. And once it is finished, all you have to do is to simply come over here and click on copy and simply come back over to N8N, open up your output parser, simply delete the previous one and simply paste it in. And now if you actually come over here and run this AI agent, you will see that it executed successfully. And if we come over here and open this up, you will see that we do have an output exactly as we wanted. We have all the separate scenes with each different animal, and then we have an image prompt and a video prompt. The same with scene number 2, the same with scene number 3, which is excellent. So let's actually pin this data so we don't have to rerun this. And now what we need to do is to actually start creating our video. But before we do that, guys, because we will need to modify the data a little bit, what we have to do is to come over here and add in a split out node. And the reason we're adding this node is because we want to have the image prompts and the video prompts all in one schema. And as you can see right now, they're not all in one schema, they are all inside the arrays. So to circumvent that, all we have to do is to simply come over here, taking this array that is called scenes, simply drag and drop this over here and make sure we have this on no other fields. And if we come over here and click on the execute step, you will see that what this did is it inputted all of our image prompts and all of our video prompts inside one schema, which is exactly what we would need in order for us to be able to generate the videos very easily. So now that we have that, it's time we actually start generating our videos. And how we're going to do that, guys, is by using a service called Fal AI. What the service does, guys, is it basically has a lot of AI models along with their APIs that we can access from inside here very easily, so we don't constantly have to go over to each AI model that we will need. For example, let's say we need flags to generate the images, we will need to go over to the flags page and look at their API instructions. Or let's say then we need to generate the video. Let's say we generated with Kling AI, so we would need to go over to Kling AI and look at their complete different documentation. What Fal AI does is it basically takes in all these different AI models and it basically has them inside the service with very easy API structures to follow, so we can do our job significantly easier. So think of it like as a marketplace of different AI models and services. And all you have to do to get started is simply come over here, click on get started and create your account. Since I have already created my account, I simply logged in, and the first thing you need to do is to come over here and add in some credits to your account. Since we're using APIs, these APIs obviously have a cost, and that's how we're going to pay them, by adding credits over here. So make sure you come over here, click on plus, and simply add in some credits. As you can see, you don't really need much. I have added $12 over here, and we will obviously not use all of them. I just have added some extra. And then what you need to do is to simply go over here in the search bar and search for the model we're going to use to generate our images, which is going to be none other than Flax Pro. So make sure you come over here and select this one. It is a text to image model. And what this will do is bring us over to this page of Flax. Now if we scroll down here, we can also see the cost per every image we generate, and as you can see, it is only $0.06 per image, which is pretty low. So in order for us to actually be able to use this model inside N8N, all we have to do is to come over here next to the playground and click on the API, and this opens up the API instructions. Now the first thing we need to do is to come over here to the table of contents and make sure we change this from JavaScript to HTTP CURL, which is the exact method we're going to be using to access this API. So now all we have to do, guys, is to simply come over here to where you see submit a request, because this is going to be the first thing we need to do. We're going to send over a request to Flax to generate the images. So in order for us to be able to do that, all we have to do is to come over here to where you see CURL and start copying from this exact moment. So don't copy the response and the other things it has, just copy from where it says CURL and all the way down here to where you see this bracket end. So everything inside here, make sure you copy. Don't copy anything outside, because if you do, we will not be able to use the CURL. Just simply copy this, and then what we need to do is to come over here, click on the plus icon and search for an HTTP request, which is again the method we're going to use to access Flax. And now the magic with the CURL, guys, is all we have to do is to simply come over here, click on import CURL and simply paste in what we just copied and click on import. And what this does is it basically populates all the settings we had to do automatically, so we basically don't have to do anything. We just have to make some very minor tweaks in order for us to get the exact result that we want. But the first thing we need to do is to obviously configure our authorization. What authorization means, guys, is us basically telling Fal AI, hey, I am the specific person that is using the service, so it can actually bill us accordingly. Because if we don't actually tell it that we're using a service, it cannot actually charge us, and they wouldn't actually be able to offer the service. How we do that is by inputting our API key. Now there are two methods that you can do this. One by coming over here in the header parameters and simply inputting your API key, which is the fastest method at the start, but if you're going to do a lot of HTTP requests, you will constantly have to come over here and copy your API key and paste it over here, which will get annoying. And because we will make a lot of HTTP requests, what I would strongly suggest you to do is to simply save your Fal AI API key, so you don't constantly have to come and paste it over here. So how can you do that exactly? Well, first of all, we don't actually need these header parameters, we can just simply close them off. And what we need to do is to come over here to authentication and select generic credential type. Then over here we need to simply select header auth. You can see this tab opens up with all the API keys we have saved. As you can see, I have already saved my Fal AI API key, but I will do it again just to show you how. So all you have to do is to simply come over here, click on create new credential, and over here you need to input two things, the name and the value. So in the name, what you have to do is type in authorization with the first letter being a capital. This is super important. If the first letter is not capital, this is not going to work. And then over here in the value, what you need to do, and just to show you because it's going to be blurred out underneath, is you need to type in key space with the first letter being capital as well, and a space after the key. So you type in key and space. So now what I will do is I will simply copy this and make sure I paste this one here. And now what we need to do is paste in our API key over here. But Damien, how am I gonna find my API key? Well, to find your API key, you simply need to come back over to Fal's homepage and then simply come over here and click on API keys. And this will open up the tab with all the API keys you have generated. To create a brand new one, you simply have to come over here and click on add key, and then you need to give it a name. Let me name it N8N for this example, and then you simply come over here and click on create key, and boom, this is our API key. Now make sure you don't actually share this with anyone, because then they will be able to use the credits that you have inside your account. So make sure you keep this one secret. I will delete it after uploading this video. But for now, I'll simply come over here and click on copy key, and then come back over to N8N and simply paste it in over here. And remember, before I have typed in key, space, and then I paste in the API key. Because if you forget to do that, this is not going to work. So now that I did that, I will simply come over here and give this a name so I actually know which API key it is. So I will say Fal AI. And then I will simply come over here and click on save. And as you can see, my credential was successfully created. So now if I close this off, I can simply select my API key from here and I don't constantly have to paste it in every time. So now all we have to do, guys, is to come over here in the body parameters and actually input the prompt that we want to send over to Flags to generate our image. So I'll simply delete the fake dummy prompt that exists over here, and I'll simply come over here in the split node and take in my image prompts and simply drag and drop them over here. And now you could actually leave it just like it is, but if we come back over to Fal's docs and we scroll down here, we will be able to see over here in the schema section all the parameters that we can actually configure and what possible values we can give to them. As you can see, only the prompt is required, but if we actually don't want to configure anything else from here, we can just simply come over here and read what it is and what possible values we can give. But since we're actually trying to make a vertical video, it would be ideal if we came over here in the aspect ratio parameter and we actually made it a 9:16, since that is the diameters of vertical videos. To do that, all I will do is I will come over here, copy the aspect ratio, and I will also see all the possible values I can give to this parameter. And since I want the 9:16, I will keep this in mind. And then I will simply come back over to N8N, click on add another parameter. In the name I will paste in what I just copied, which is the aspect ratio. And then on the value, I will simply come over here and say 9:16, which are the two parameters I want to configure. Now, if you want to configure any out of the other parameters, you can do it with the exact same way. Simply copy the name and then input the value that it can take, that you can see from inside the docs. And that's why actually sitting there and reading the docs is super important, and many people try to avoid that. But your docs are actually your best friend. They tell you exactly what parameters you can configure and what are the possible values you can give to them. Because if you don't read the docs, you won't be able to make the correct configurations, but if you read them, it's actually super simple. So now, since I have configured these two parameters, all I will do is I will come over here and click on execute step, and as you can see, it is successful, which means that I have successfully sent in a request over to Flags to start generating these images. So now I will simply come over here and pin this data, since I don't want to have to resend this if something goes wrong, because it does cost money, as you saw before. And now what we need is to actually fetch the result, so actually get the images once they're done generating. But how are we actually going to be able to do that? There are two ways. First of all, if we actually trigger the next part of the automation, which is getting the results, right now the automation is going to break simply because the images are not done generating yet, and our brand new node is going to try, it's going to fail, and then the rest of the automation is not going to be triggered. So to circumvent that, we can simply come over here and add in a wait node, which what this will do is it will basically wait for the amount of time we tell it, which is going to be a decent amount, so we are certain that the images have been generated. So if you're actually going to wait over here for the images, I would tell you to honestly put this at 1 minute just to be certain. And then after the wait node, so after you waited for 1 minute for your generation to happen, what you need to do is come over here and add in another HTTP request, which with this HTTP request we will basically get the images that we just generated. So to do that, you simply need to come back over to the Google Docs and scroll all the way up here again to where you see the get result tab, and then again over here you see a CURL. So all you have to do is to simply come over here, copy it, and then come back over to N8N and make sure you click on import CURL, delete the previous one and simply paste this one in and click on import. And now this basically configures all the parameters that we actually need. Now let's actually execute the previous nodes so we can actually see the input data over here as well. And now what we need to do is to basically configure this node. The first thing we need to do is to come over here in the URL, and you see at the end of the URL there's this parameter that's called request ID, and we actually need to change that. All we have to do is to come over here, click on expression, so we can actually use a variable. Come over here, simply delete the request ID. If you see over here, we do have a parameter that's called request ID, which actually got generated when we first send our request over to Flags. So what we have to do is simply take in this parameter and drag and drop this over here. And the other thing that we need to do is to basically give it our API key. But remember, we saved it before, so all we have to do is to come over here, select generic credential type, then over here select header auth, and then simply select our API key that we saved before. So I'll simply select it, and we don't need the header parameters, and that's basically all we had to do. And now if we come over here and click on execute step, we can see that we have successfully gotten the images that finished generating. But now you might say, but Damian, what if I actually waited over here for 1 minute and the images didn't finish generating? What you can do is simply open this node, navigate over to the settings tab, which is a tab that almost nobody navigates to for some reason. I don't know why. It's actually super useful. And what you can do is simply come over here and turn on retry on fail. So if this node fails because the images have not been yet generated, what you can do is basically tell it to retry. And how you can do that is by configuring this edition over here. So let's say max retries, let's give it 10, and how much time will it wait after it retries? 1000 is 1 second. So if we actually do 10,000, it will actually be 1 minute. Oh, now I see that it can only go up to 5,000 for some reason. Adding this wait node over here is so important. Now, this isn't the most optimal way, guys, if I'm gonna be honest, because Fal AI does have another option, which it basically checks for the status, and then we can basically create a loop in which if the status is not completed, it keeps rechecking after a certain amount of time till it is. So I will actually show you this for this example, but because we will have to use a lot of HTTP requests, and if I actually do it this way, this video will take very long, I will only show you how you can do this for this example, but in your own workflow and in the template I will give you inside the community, it will be implemented that way. But still, the wait node over here is a correct option, it's just not the most optimal option if we're gonna be honest. So, let me actually show you how you can make this. For right now, if you don't actually want to see this and you actually want to move on, I have timestamps underneath this video, you can simply skip to the next section. But for those that do want to see this, what you would have to do is to simply come over here and add in another HTTP request. And this time, you would have to come back over here to the docs. Make sure you find the fetch request status and then simply copy this CURL. And then come back over here and click on import CURL, delete the previous one, paste this one in and click on import. Again, let's select our authentication exactly as we did before, and select our Fal AI key. Let's close the header parameters, and what we have to do over here is in this URL, let's actually open this up as an expression. You can see we have a request ID over here as well. So all we have to do is to simply delete this one, come over here, take in the request ID, simply paste it to the place that we just deleted the previous one. And that's basically it. Now if I come over here and click on execute step, you will see that over here in the status says completed. If it wasn't done, it would say incomplete. So how we can move around that if it wasn't done is we simply can come over here and add in an if node. What this if node will allow us to do is basically check for this specific thing. So all I will do is I will come over here and say if the status, and I will simply drag and drop the schema, is equal to, and I will say completed, for example. So if this is actually completed, and I click on execute step, which it is right now, it will actually be true, and then it will actually move on with this branch to the rest of the automation, which we are going to connect over to this HTTP request. But if it's actually not completed and it's actually false, what we will do is we will come over here and add in a wait node to wait for a little bit. For example, let's say we wanna wait for like 30 seconds. And then, if this is not completed, we wait for 30 seconds and we'll take this, bring it back over to where we check if this is completed. So, what this will do is, if this isn't completed, it will wait 30 seconds and will come back over to this node and it will recheck again. So this will execute again and it will say, oh, is this completed this time? If it is, then great. It will go to the if node, it's going to be true, and we'll be able to move on with the rest of our automation. If again it's not, it will come again back over to the wait node. It will wait for 30 seconds and it will go again over here. it's gonna execute again. So it's basically an infinite loop until this is completed. That is the most optimal method, but using just the simple wait node can work as well. It's not like it's wrong, it's just that you will need to input a time frame in which you are certain it's going to be ready. Again, in my community I will have it with the most optimal way, but for the purposes of this video, because it's going to be way too long if I do this step as well for all the HTTP requests, I will just simply not use this one. I'll just simply leave it up here. But again, if you were asking me which one you should do, I would say the most optimal way is this one. But for now, let's keep it with a simple wait node inside, in the middle of this, and let's move on to the next step. So since now we have generated our images over here, what we need to do is take in those images and basically generate the videos out of those images. So to do that, we will simply come over here and add in another HTTP request. Let's also break it down here so we know this is to generate the video and this is to generate the images, so we're a little bit better and organized. So to actually configure this HTTP request, you simply have to come back over to the homepage of Fal, and now we need to search for the model that is going to generate our videos. So to do that, I will simply come over here to the search tab and I will search for Kling. And I will make sure I select the 1.6 image to video, and this is the model that I will personally use. Now if I scroll down here, you can see that this model actually costs $0.095 per second of video, so it is slightly more on the expensive side. Now if you don't want to use a model this expensive and you want to use something less expensive, you can actually use some of these options that I have put up in the screen, which I have found they do deliver good results as well. They're significantly less expensive. I'm just using Kling because I want the best possible result for this video, but you can obviously use whichever model you want. And now to configure this, we need to come again over here to the API section, and again we need to simply scroll down here. We need to make sure that we have selected HTTP CURL, and then we need to scroll down here and again go over to submit request. We will start copying from where it says CURL to all the way down here to where this bracket ends. Don't copy anything underneath it because the CURL is not going to be able to work. So now I will simply come and copy this, and I will come back over to N8N and I will click on import CURL, and I will delete the previous one, paste this one in and click on import. Again, this populates most of the settings we need to configure. Now we need to set up our authentication. I will come over here and close the send-headed parameters, and I will come over here, select generic credential type, select header auth, and then select Fal AI API key that I have saved. So you see why this comes in very handy. We don't constantly have to search for it and paste it. And then over here in the parameters, we need to configure what we actually want this to do. So first we have the prompt, which we definitely know what this is. It's basically the prompt to generate the video. So I'll simply come delete the previous fake prompt that it has, and I will come over here and open up my split out node where I have the prompts. Over here I have the image prompts, and over here I have the video prompts. And since this is a video, I will take in the video prompt schema, simply drag and drop this over here. And then in the image URL, what we need to do is give in the URL of the images that we just generated. So I'll simply come over here, delete the fake one, and I will open the HTTP request where I have the image URLs. So I will simply take in the URLs of the images and drag and drop them over here. And now what we need to do is to also add in the extra parameters that we want to configure. And to figure out which parameters these are, we can simply come over here in the schema, in the docs, and simply take a look at them. We have the video duration, we have the aspect ratio, total image URL, negative prompt, etc, etc. Out of these, the only thing that I actually care about is the aspect ratio, since I actually want this to be a vertical video. So I'll simply copy this, come back over to N8N, click on add parameter, paste it in, and I will come over here and type 9:16, exactly as it was inside the docs. And now the only thing I have to do is to simply come over here and click on execute step, and boom, you can see that we have successfully sent a request over to Kling to generate our videos. Now I'll simply come over here and pin this data so I don't have to resend this. And now again, what you have to do is to come over here and add in a wait node. So I will simply add this wait node over here. I will say for this to actually be ready, it would be around 2 minutes. Again, you can use the other method that we did before. This one is just faster for the purposes of the video. And after this wait node actually ran and it waited for the videos to be generated, what we need to do is to actually get the videos inside N8N. So to do that, we need to come over here and add in another HTTP request. And again, we need to import the CURL. So to find that, we come back over to Clink's API docs and we simply scroll all the way up here to where we see get the result, and we simply come over here and copy this full CURL, and we come back over here and click on import CURL, simply delete this one, and we click on import, and boom, this populates the majority of the settings. Now what we need to do is to simply close the header parameters and make sure we come over here, select generic credential type, then over here header auth, and then we simply select our Fal API key. And now all we have to do is to come over here in the URL, make sure we turn this into an expression, delete the request ID, and come over here to where we have the request ID and simply take this and drag and drop this over here. And if I come over here and click on the execute step, you can see that it still hasn't finished, but actually a very good idea of how you can circumvent this came to my mind, guys. We can come over here to the settings, and over here on error, we can simply change this from stop workflow to continue using an error output. So what this will do is it will basically make this an if node basically. If it is done, it will move on with the rest of the workflow, but if it has an error, gives us this output, which what we can do is basically take this and bring this over to the wait node over here. So it's gonna wait again and it's going to check again. This is another way you can do this. It basically mimics the one that I showed you before. So I would say just do this. You don't really have to do the other extra step. So I will also come over here and change this node. I'll simply change it to continue using an error output, and I'll simply take this and bring this over to the wait node. So this is just simply a faster way to do the exact same thing. And alright guys, I just rerun it, and as you can see this run was successful. So we basically do have the videos ready over here. So let me actually pin this so we don't lose this. So now to take this video to the next level, we also need to add in some sound effects to it to make it more engaging. So to do that, we simply need to come over here and add in another HTTP request. And now to configure this HTTP request, we need to go back over to Fal AI, make sure we come over here in the search bar and search for sound effects, and what we need to do is to select a video to video sound effects generator. For this example, I will select KST AI. You can obviously select each one that you want. And now all we have to do is to come over here to the API documentation, make sure this is on HTTP, and then we simply need to come over here and copy the CURL exactly the same as before, and then come back over to N8N, click on import CURL, delete the previous one, paste this one in, and click on import, and this populates the majority of the settings. Now let's also configure the authentication. So I will simply come over here, select generic credential type, then I will come over here header auth, and then I will select my Fal AI API key. And now what we need to do is to simply give it the video URL to which we need to generate the sound effects for. So I'll simply delete the previous one, which was fake, and I will simply come over here, take in the video URLs we just generated. I'll simply take this and drag and drop this over here. And since if I come back over to the docs, this is the only parameter I can configure, we will simply leave it exactly as it is and simply come over here and click on execute step. And you can see it is in queue, so I will simply come over here and pin this, and let's come off of here. Let's bring this down so we know this is a separate function. Let's also add in a wait node over here. For this wait node, I will actually do 1 minute since it shouldn't take too long. So I'll simply do 1 minute, and then what we need to do is to simply come over here and add in another HTTP request. This time to actually get the video that has the sound effects inside. We need to come back over to the docs, make sure we come over here to where it says get the result, simply copy the CURL, and come over here, click on import CURL again, delete the previous one, paste this one in, and click on import. Let's also set up our authentication. I will select generic credential type, and I will come over here and select header auth, and then I will select my Fal AI API key. I will close this off, and now what we need to do is to come over here in the URL, turn this into an expression, and simply delete the request ID from over here, and taking the actual request ID we have, simply drag and drop this over here. And let's also open the settings app and make sure that on the error we actually continue using an error output. So if it actually errors, we can make it rerun again and again. So now let's actually test to see if it is done. I will simply come over here, click on execute step, and boom, as you can see it is done. But if it wasn't, what we could do is take in the error output and simply take this and bring this over to the wait node so it keeps rerunning till it is actually done. This is actually a very good strategy. So now what we need to do is to basically take in these 3 different videos and simply merge them all together to create our short. So how are we going to do that? Well, let me pin this data first, and again we will have to come over here and add in another HTTP request. And you see, we do use a lot of HTTP requests. That's why it's super important to actually save in your credentials so you don't constantly have to paste in your API key. So now we will simply open this up, and what we need to do is we will again come back over to Fal AI. So we simply search for compose, and you will see this option over here, FFmpeg API compose. So make sure you select it, and this opens up this page. So now all we have to do is to again go over to the API section, make sure this is on HTTP, and then we will again come over here, copy the CURL exactly the same as before, come back over to N8N, click on import CURL, delete the previous one, paste this one in, click on import. Now we simply close the header parameters. Let's set up our authentication over here. So I will simply come, select generic credential type, then header auth, and then my API key. And now if we scroll down here, we can see that it has a JSON this time. And how we're actually going to be able to configure this is we need to do one step before this. And what that step is, guys, is we basically need to come over here and add in an aggregate node, which what this node will enable us to do is basically take in all the URLs from the videos we have just created and basically put them all inside one array in order for us to be able to do that. So I will simply put them all in over here, and I'll click on execute step. And as you can see over here, we have put in all of this inside one array, which is exactly what we needed to do. So now if we actually bring this down here to have this better organized, what we can do is simply come open this up, and in the template that it has populated for us, we basically need to add in these links inside the URL parameter over here. So how we are actually going to be able to do that? So I basically told ChatGPT to do that for me. Now we'll have this inside the community, but if you want, you can simply screenshot this and basically give it to ChatGPT and it will give you the text. So now I'll simply come over here and click on copy, and I will come back over here and simply paste this in. And now all I have to do is to simply come over here and click on execute step, and boom, you can see it is in queue right now. So again, let's add in a simple wait node. Let's make this one 1 minute, for example. And again, let's come over here and add in another HTTP request. And now we need to come back over to the docs, scroll down here to where we see the get result section, simply copy the CURL, come back over to N8N, click on import CURL, simply delete this one, paste this one in, click on import. Again, let's select our credentials over here. I will select mine, I will select header auth and my Fal AI API key, and I will also come over here, open the settings tab and make sure it continues if it actually errors, and I will close this off, take this and bring this over to the wait node. And now if I actually run this, I actually made a mistake. I actually forgot to add in the request ID. So let me actually do that right now. And I'll leave these parts in the video, guys, to see that basically everyone makes mistakes and how silly some mistakes can be and how easily they can be fixed. So simply forgot to add in the request ID. So let me actually take this and drag and drop this over here. So now if I close this off and I come over here and click on execute step again, and boom, you can see it executed successfully this time. And we do have over here our video URL. So let me actually pin this, and now what we need to do, since we have our video ready, is basically return it in our Lovable interface. Then we can actually schedule it for posting in our social media. So how we're actually going to do that? Well, very simple. We will actually use a respond webhook node, and the reason we're using this node, guys, is because this node actually allows us to send it back over in a Lovable interface. So how we're actually going to be able to configure this? Well, what I will do is I will simply come over here, select all incoming items, and before I'm actually able to click on the execute step and send this back in my Lovable interface, what I need to do is to close this off, go back over here to my initial webhook, open it up, and make sure I change this method from respond to where it says immediately to using a respond webhook node. Because if I don't actually change this, I will not actually be able to send the data back to Lovable with a respond webhook node. So make sure you actually make this change, and then you can simply come back over here, open this up, and click on execute step. And you can see that we have successfully sent in these two things back in our Lovable interface, the video URL and the thumbnail URL. But if I actually come back over in my Lovable interface, I cannot actually see anything being displayed over here, and that is because I simply have not told Lovable that it needs to expect to receive data back and then being able to display it. So that's exactly what I should do right now. So what I said is, make sure you expect to receive data from the webhook and you create a brand new section where you can display it. Also, when you create this brand new section, make sure there are options that I can select so I can schedule the video for posting on my social media. I need to be able to select to post it on TikTok, Instagram and YouTube, and I need to be able to select the specific time that I want to post each one. And you can see that I also told it to create a brand new function of our app simply because I do want to save in my Lovable credits and not have to send a billion messages if I can just do it in one. And then I also said you should send all the data back over to this webhook over here. And now what I will do, guys, is I will simply come back over here and click on the plus icon and add in a brand new webhook. And again, I will change the method from get to post, and I will simply copy this webhook URL and come back over here and simply paste this in. So Lovable knows where to send all this brand new information, where I will select at what platform and at what time I want to schedule my video. And now what I will do is I will enable chat mode and I will click on enter. And the reason I did that, guys, is because I don't want Lovable to make any changes yet. I want to first see if it actually understood exactly what I wanted to do, and then I can simply approve the plan that it gives me so I can actually make the changes. Alright, so I read its plan. It does look pretty good, so I will simply come over here, click on implement plan, and I will simply wait till Lovable is finished. And it just finished making the changes. And guys, before we move on, I actually came back over here and made the change by adding in the upload to YouTube node, in which I basically upload the video over to YouTube as an unlisted video, so then we can take this link and send it back over to Lovable to be displayed. Because if we do not do that, Lovable is not going to be able to display the video. And I also made one more change in the respond to webhook node. And I actually did that because we're going to need this later on in this automation. I actually changed this to respond with text. You can also do it with a JSON format, it's exactly the same. But what I did over here is I made sure I returned the YouTube URL we just created over here, but also I returned the video URL from Fal AI. And I did that because we're going to need this when we are uploading it to be scheduled in the different platforms, because we cannot actually use this YouTube link to do that. We will have to use this Fal AI link. So that's why I made sure I return both of those links. So now if I come over here, make sure this webhook is actually listening for a test event, and I come back over here and make all these options again, and I click on schedule posts, you can see that the post was sent successfully. And if I come back over to N8N, I can see that we do in fact have an output, which means that we have successfully managed to connect our frontend interface with this webhook over in N8N. If I scroll all the way down here, we can see all the data about the videos that we need to schedule for posting, plus we can see this additional URL over here, which is the Fal AI link we will need in order for us to be able to upload this specific video. So now I will simply come and pin this data so I don't constantly have to rerun this. And before I do anything else, I will actually come over here and use a split out node simply to transform the data in a way that we will be able to use in the next node. And you will see exactly why I'm doing that in a bit. But for now, I will simply come over here in this scheduled data array, and I will simply take this and drag and drop this over here. I will make sure this is no other fields, and I'll click on execute step. This way we have the exact platform over here and the specific date and time we want to schedule post this video. So now I will simply come and click off of this here, and it's time we actually start scheduling to post this video. So how are we gonna do that, you might ask? Well, we're going to do that by using a third-party API tool that is called Potato. And Potato is by far the best tool I have found to schedule posts in all of your different social medias. It's the easiest method, and it's also pretty cheap compared to alternatives. So if you're going to use one of them, I would definitely suggest you to use Potato. I'm not affiliated with them at all. I just think they are the best possible solution out there. That's why I'm using it myself. So all you have to do is to simply come and create your account. And once you did that, it is actually going to bring you over to this interface, and I will also leave a link for Potato underneath this video so you can go and check it out. So the first thing that you have to do is to actually come over here to the settings tab, click on it, and simply log in all of your social medias that you want to post this video to. For me, it's going to be TikTok, it's going to be Instagram, and it's going to be YouTube. And once you log in, you will be able to see all of your accounts over here. And after you did that, guys, what you have to do is to come over here to the left and make sure you click on help. And what this will do is it will open up all the Potato documentation, which is going to tell you exactly how you can use their API. So to use it, all you have to do is to simply scroll all the way down here, guys, to where it says API, and then you need to come over here to where it says API reference. Simply click on it, and this will open up this tab. Where you first need to navigate is over here to the upload media v2. Since the first thing we have to do is to simply upload this video over to Potato, so then Potato has access to it, and then we can actually schedule it in all the different platforms that we want. So as you see over here, we have the endpoint that we need to hit. Over here we also have the different body parameters that we need, which for this is just the URL. So basically the URL we have from Fal AI. So let's actually start configuring this node. So the first thing we have to do is to obviously come and take this base URL and simply copy it, and then we're going to come back over to N8N, simply click on the plus icon and search for an HTTP request, simply select it, and then what we need to do is to come over here and change the method from get to post, since that's what the documentation actually said, and then simply paste in the URL we just copied. But remember, this is just the first part of the URL, we also have a second part, which if we actually go back over to the Blotero docs, we can see over here. So we simply copy it, and then we simply come back over here and paste it in. Then we also need to authenticate ourselves, and I would again suggest you to save your credentials so you can use them for future HTTP requests. So to do that, you simply have to come over here to generic credential type, then you have to come over here, select header auth, and click on create new credentials. So in the name you have to type Blotero -API-key, exactly as I type it over here. If you type it wrong, this is not going to work, so make sure you copy it exactly. And then over here in the value, what you need to do is basically paste in your API key. So how you gonna find your API key? Well, you simply have to come back over to Blotero's interface in the settings tab, and make sure you navigate over here to where it says API, and then simply come over here and click on copy API key. And then you simply come over here and paste in your API key, and come over here and click on save. And as you can see, our credentials were successfully created. Let me also rename it now that I'm thinking about it, so I don't actually forget it. So I will name it Blotero2, since I already have saved my credential once, and I'll click on save. And now I can simply close this off and make sure I select it, so I'm actually authenticated. And then what we need to do is to open up the body parameters, and if we come back over to the docs, we can see that there is only one field that is required, which is the URL field. So I will simply come copy this and simply paste this in, and then over here in the value I will actually open up the webhook node, and I will come over here to where it says additional video URL, which is what the Fal AI link that we have, which I told you before I returned it back in my Lovable interface. This is the exact reason I returned it, so we can basically take this and drag and drop this over here, so we can upload it over to Blotero to make it being able to schedule a search. So now if I come over here and click on execute step, guys, you will see that we have successfully uploaded this URL over to Blotero, which is exactly what we wanted. So now that we have uploaded it, we basically need to tell Blotero the times and dates we want to post this specific sort and in which specific platforms. So let me first pin this data, and let's actually go and do that. So the first thing we need to do is to come over here again and search for an HTTP request. We need to come back over to the docs. We're not trying to upload media this time, since we have already done that. What we're actually trying to do is publish media. So we'll select on the publish post documentation, and over here we can see the endpoint that we need to hit. So make sure we actually copy this. We come back over here, we change this from get to post, and then we simply paste this in, and let me delete the part that I don't actually need, that I copied for no reason. So now we're good with that, and then over here we need to set up our authentication. Again, we select header auth, and then over here we simply select our Blotero credentials. The last thing we need to do is to send body parameters, so we need to configure the exact body parameters we're going to send. So how are we gonna do that exactly? So if we come back over to the docs, and you see I do use the docs a lot, guys, because your docs are your actual best friend, because they tell you exactly what you need to do in order for you to be able to use any API. So if you have the docs, you shouldn't be afraid. You can use any API, Blotero's or any other third-party tool in that matter. So as you can see over here, it basically tells us the specific body parameters we actually need to send over to Blotero in order for it to be able to do its job. And you can see over here, there are some that are required, like this for example, and there are some that are not. Plus, if we scroll all the way down here, and these are the general ones that are required basically every time. But if we scroll all the way down here, we can see the ones that are required for each specific platform. So since we're actually going to use Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, these are the parameters that we actually need to use. So we need to keep those in mind. The good part about Blotero's docs is that if we scroll all the way down here, we can see some examples that it has, and this one is to post in a specific platform immediately, but this one is to schedule a post, which is exactly what we're trying to do. And you can see we basically have the JSON code almost fully ready for us. We just have to make some minor tweaks to it, which I will show you what you need to do in a bit. So all you have to do is to simply come, take in this code, simply copy it, come back over to N8N, simply change this from using fields below to using JSON. Let's make this bigger so you can actually take a better look at it. Simply come over here and paste the code that we just copied. And now we just need to configure some things. So let's say with this specific HTTP request, we want to schedule the post on Instagram, for example. So the first thing we need to configure is this account ID over here. So how we're gonna get our unique account ID? Well, we simply need to come back over to the Potato settings and scroll all the way down here to where we have connected our accounts, and all we have to do is to locate our Instagram account. Mine is over here, and simply come over here and click on copy account ID. So now we simply come back over here, and then we make sure we delete the previous one and we paste this one in. Then we have a bunch of more parameters, but basically all of these parameters are already set up for us. The ones that we need to actually change are over here in the media URLs. We simply need to take in this URL and drag and drop this inside here, so it knows which video we want to schedule to Instagram. And then over here in the platform, we simply need to come delete Facebook and type in Instagram with 0 caps. If we type it with caps, it's not going to work. Plus, over here in the target type, we need to do the exact same thing. And then over here in the schedule type, guys, what we need to do is come open up the webhook. And if you see over here where we have Instagram, for example, we can see that we basically have the time in this schema over here that is called date, because in this one it's also the specific date plus the time. So all we have to do is to simply come delete this part over here and simply take this and drag and drop this over here. So now that we have configured those, what we need to do is to come back over to the docs, navigate over to Instagram and see which other body parameters are mandatory for us to use. And we see the only one is target type, in which we need to type basically Instagram. Anything else is basically optional. We can also choose to type in media type and either select reel or story, for example, which is something that we would ideally use. So I will actually use this parameter as well. So we'll simply come over here, copy it, come over here, paste it in, and I will type reel exactly as we saw in the possible parameters before, and then I will simply close the quotes. And now we are basically done with this. All we have to do is to simply run it and schedule this post. So I will simply close this off, and I will come over here and click on execute step. And boom, we have an output over here, which means that we have successfully managed to schedule this YouTube short to be posted at this specific time over here on Instagram, which is exactly what we wanted. So all we need to do is to do the exact same thing for YouTube and TikTok. So I will simply come over here and copy this node and simply paste it in, so we don't have to configure everything from the start. I'll simply come over here and connect it, and then I will open it up. All the other options are exactly the same. The only thing we need to change are over here in the body parameters. So I will actually open them up, and the first thing I will do is I will come over here and change the account ID. So I will again come back over to Potato and I will find my YouTube account over here. I will simply come over here and click on copy account ID, and I will come back over here, delete the previous one and paste this one in. Then over here in the media URLs, it will be left exactly the same. Then we will delete the media type since we don't actually need this on YouTube. That was just for Instagram. And also in the target type over here, we need to type in YouTube exactly as it says on the docs. Plus over here in the platform, I will also come and type in YouTube. The schedule time also will need to change since we have scheduled a different time for YouTube. So I will simply delete this one, come over here, take in the schedule time I have over here for YouTube and simply drag and drop this over here. So that's great. So I changed some other parameters for YouTube as well. The only other changes I made is over here in the platform I typed YouTube, and in the target type I also typed YouTube. Then I also changed the schedule time to over here, the schedule time I have on the webhook for YouTube. So I basically took this and drag and dropped it over here. And then I simply added in a title as well, since that is required for YouTube. Plus, I added in this parameter that says privacy status and I made it public since that's also required. Plus, I also had to add in this parameter, should not notify subscribers, and I made it true since that is also required. And again, if you want more of a deep dive on how to schedule this post on Potato, you can go and check out this video that I have over here. But right now we're good to go, so I'll simply come close this off and I will click on execute step. Boom, as you can see, we have successfully scheduled this YouTube short to be posted on YouTube as well. So now the only one that is left is TikTok. So I will simply copy this HTTP request, paste it in, so I don't have to redo everything again. I will simply connect it over here and let me open this up. We will leave everything else the same. The only thing we need to change is over here in the body parameters, and the first thing we obviously need to change is the account ID. So I will simply come back over here, find my TikTok account and copy my account ID, come back over here and delete the previous one and paste this one in. And again, I made some slight changes. I left the media URLs exactly the same. I changed over here the platform to TikTok, also the target type I wrote TikTok. I also had to add in the privacy level parameter, which I put it on public to everyone. Disable comments false, disable where false, disable LED switch false, is branded content false, is your brand true, is AI generated false. And I added all these parameters because all of these are actually required when you're posting on TikTok. That's why I added those. And on the schedule time over here, I simply found the schedule time I have over here in the webhook for TikTok, and I simply took it and drag and dropped it over here. So now all I have to do is to simply close this and come over here and click on execute step. And boom, as you can see, we have successfully managed to schedule this YouTube short over to TikTok as well. But if you don't actually want to build this whole automation by yourself and you simply want to download it and upload it to N8N and have it ready to go, you can simply click the link in the description and come and join my school community, in which if you navigate over to the classroom, I have a section which is called assets, which you can open up and find every video that I have done in this channel with the JSON file for the automation underneath it. So you can just simply click on it, download it, upload it over to N8N and be ready to go immediately, without you having to spend 2 hours building the entire thing by yourself. Plus, inside the community, I have a full AI SaaS roadmap course in which I show you exactly how you can build your own AI SaaS, how you can come up with the idea and how to market it to get actual users to it. Plus, I have a full N8N course in which I go over in depth on multiple things, everything that a beginner needs to know, HTTP requests, AI agents, and a bunch of more things. And I also created a full Upwork course in which I show you exactly how you can succeed on Upwork and go from $0 to over $10,000 per month. Plus a cold email course in which I show you how to do the exact same just by using cold email. And I also just finished recording this YouTube course and this Instagram course in which I show you exactly how you can build an audience on YouTube and on Instagram and sell your automations to them, because everyone else shows you how to do these two methods, how to make money on Upwork and how to make money using cold email, but nobody shows you the highest leverage activities like building an audience on YouTube and on Instagram in order for you to leverage it and sell your AI systems. Well, that's exactly what I show you how to do in this course. I show you exactly how you can grow a YouTube channel in a niche which will allow you to sell your automations, and the same thing with Instagram over here. Plus, I'm currently building this 120-day roadmap in which I will basically show you what you need to do every day, and I basically include everything I show you in all of these 4 courses in order for you to start making money by selling AI automations. So you basically don't really have to think about what strategy you should follow. I basically tell you exactly what steps you need to take every day for 120 days. And plus, I'm about to start this project, which is the building a $1 million SaaS project, which is going to come very soon, probably in the middle of August, in which I will actually start building my own AI SaaS and scaling it to 10,000 plus MRR, following the exact strategies I show you in this AI SaaS roadmap. Plus, if you join, you also get access to a community of more than 135 members that are actively using AI to grow their business and are interested in making money with it, so you can end up making some very good friends. And you literally have nothing to lose, because I do offer a 7-day money back guarantee, which means that if you join, if you don't actually like it, you can just simply message me and I will send you your money back, no questions asked. So click on the join now button and I will be waiting for you inside. But now YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy this video in which I build a $1 million app using just Lovable and N8N. So make sure you go and check that out next, and I will see you over there.